The morning mist hung low over Buckingham Palace as William strode through the marble corridors, his footsteps echoing with unusual force. Staff members pressed themselves against the walls, sensing the tension radiating from the Prince of Wales. His jaw was set firm, his hands clenched at his sides, and his normally composed demeanor had vanished completely. Catherine had not slept well for 3 nights running. The dark circles under her eyes told a story of worry and exhaustion that makeup could barely conceal. She had tried to explain to William what had happened during the charity gala, but every time she began, her voice would catch and tears would threaten to spill. The incident at the Children's Hospital fundraiser had started innocently enough. Catherine had been mingling with donors, her warm smile lighting up the room as she discussed the importance of pediatric care. She wore her favorite sapphire dress, the one that always made her feel confident and graceful. The evening was proceeding perfectly until Camilla arrived fashionably late, making her entrance with characteristic flair. What happened next would replay in Catherine's mind countless times. Camilla had approached the small group surrounding Catherine, her eyes scanning the room with practiced ease. The Queen Consort smiled warmly at the donors, but when her gaze fell upon Catherine, something shifted. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but Catherine felt the chill immediately. "Catherine, dear," Camilla had said, her voice carrying across the small circle of guests. "I do hope you're feeling well. You look rather pale this evening. Perhaps the stress of all these public appearances is becoming too much." The words seemed innocent enough to the casual observer, but Catherine knew better. She had learned to read the subtle nuances of royal communication, the art of delivering cutting remarks wrapped in silk. The suggestion that she couldn't handle her royal duties stung deeply, especially in front of major donors who expected to see a strong, capable Princess of Wales. Catherine had maintained her composure, responding with grace and dignity, but inside she felt something crack. This wasn't the first time Camilla had made such comments, but it was the first time it had happened so publicly, in front of people whose respect and support were crucial to the charitable work Catherine held dear. Lady Margaret Thornby, one of the hospital's longest-standing patrons, had noticed the exchange. Her eyebrows raised slightly as she glanced between the two women. The uncomfortable silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity before Catherine managed to redirect the conversation back to the hospital's needs. But the damage was done. For the remainder of the evening, Catherine felt eyes upon her, whispered conversations stopping when she approached groups, and a general sense that something had shifted. The fundraiser, which should have been a triumphant evening celebrating their success in raising over £2 million, now felt tainted. William had been attending a separate engagement that evening, a technology summit focused on environmental innovation. He had been looking forward to hearing about Catherine's successful fundraiser, expecting to find her glowing with pride over another charitable triumph. Instead, he returned to find his wife sitting quietly in their private quarters, still in her evening gown, staring out the window at the darkened palace gardens. "How did it go?" he had asked, settling beside her on the antique settee that had been a wedding gift from the Queen. Catherine had tried to smile, but the effort seemed to drain what little energy she had left. "We raised the target amount," she said quietly. "The donors were very generous." William knew his wife well enough to recognize when something was wrong. The way she avoided eye contact, the slight tremor in her voice, the way she held herself as if trying to make herself smaller, all signs that something had deeply upset her. "What happened?" He pressed gently, taking her hand in his. It took nearly an hour for the full story to emerge. Catherine spoke in halting sentences, pausing frequently to compose herself. She described not just the evening's events, but a pattern that had been building for months. Small comments, subtle undermining, moments designed to chip away at her confidence and standing within the family. William's expression had grown darker with each revelation. His free hand had gradually curled into a fist, and by the time Catherine finished speaking, his knuckles were white with tension. "She did this in public?" he had asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Catherine nodded, finally meeting his eyes. "In front of Lady Margaret, Lord Pemberton, and the entire Children's Hospital Board. They all heard it, William. They all saw how she questioned my ability to handle my duties." The implications were serious. These weren't just random social contacts. These were people whose support was essential for the charitable work that formed the backbone of Catherine's royal role. Their perception of her competence and dedication could affect millions of pounds in future donations and the success of countless charitable initiatives. William had spent the rest of that night pacing their bedroom, his mind racing through possible responses and their consequences. By dawn, his decision was made. This pattern of behavior could not continue, regardless of Camilla's position as queen consort. The next morning, William had requested a private meeting with his stepmother. The request, delivered through proper channels, was politely but firmly declined. Camilla's private secretary explained that Her Majesty's schedule was completely full for the foreseeable future. The second request, made more formally, received a similar response. By the third day, when William's increasingly urgent requests for a meeting were being deflected with obvious excuses, his patience had evaporated entirely. That was what led to this moment, as William strode through the palace corridors with murder in his eyes, heading directly to Camilla's private office. Protocol demanded that he wait for an appointment, that he respect the careful hierarchies and procedures that governed royal life. But protocol hadn't protected his wife from being humiliated in public. The ornate door to Camilla's office suite stood before him, flanked by two very uncomfortable-looking footmen who clearly recognized the determination in the Prince of Wales's approach. "Your Royal Highness," one of them ventured nervously, "Her Majesty is currently in a private meeting with—" "I don't care if she's meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury," William cut him off, his voice carrying the unmistakable authority of future king. "This conversation is happening now." Without waiting for permission, William pushed past the footman and threw open the door to Camilla's office. The sound echoed through the corridors like a gunshot, announcing to everyone within hearing distance that the carefully maintained peace of the palace was about to shatter. Inside, Camilla looked up from her desk with surprise that quickly transformed into carefully controlled irritation. She had been reviewing correspondence with her private secretary, who immediately sensed the tension and began gathering papers with obvious haste. "William," Camilla said, her voice steady but cool. "How unexpected. As you can see, I'm rather busy at the moment." "We need to talk," William replied, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "Now." The private secretary, a woman who had served in royal households for over 20 years, had never moved so quickly to exit a room. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving William and Camilla alone in the book-lined office that had once belonged to Queen Elizabeth herself. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken accusations and years of carefully navigated family dynamics. Portraits of previous monarchs looked down from the walls, silent witnesses to a confrontation that would reshape the relationships at the very heart of the British royal family. William remained standing, his tall frame imposing in the elegant room. Camilla stayed seated behind her desk, using the furniture as a barrier between them. Both understood that whatever was said in the next few minutes would change everything. The tension in the room was so thick it seemed to press against the walls themselves. William's breathing was controlled but audible, each exhale carrying the weight of his fury. Camilla's fingers drummed silently against her desk, a nervous habit she had developed during her early days as a royal when every word and gesture was scrutinized. "You've been avoiding me?" William said, finally breaking the silence. His voice was steady. but underneath lay a current of barely contained rage that made Camilla shift uncomfortably in her chair. "I've been busy," she replied, attempting to maintain her composure. "The duties of queen consort are quite demanding, as I'm sure you understand." "Don't." William's single word cut through the air like a blade. "Don't pretend this is about your schedule. We both know why you won't see me." Camilla set down her pen and looked directly at her stepson. For a moment, the mask of royal propriety slipped, revealing something harder underneath. "If you have something to say, William, then say it, but I won't be spoken to like a common servant in my own office." "Your own office?" William's laugh was bitter. "This was my grandmother's office. These are her books on the shelves, her photographs on the desk. Don't mistake your current position for ownership of a legacy you had no part in building." The words hit their mark. Camilla's carefully maintained expression flickered, showing a flash of the insecurity that still haunted her, despite years of marriage to Charles. She had always been conscious of being an outsider, someone who had married into the family rather than being born into it. "That's unfair," she said quietly. "I've served this family faithfully for years." "Have you?" William stepped closer to the desk, his hands pressed flat against its surface as he leaned forward. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been systematically undermining my wife for months." Camilla's back straightened. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "The charity gala," William said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "In front of the Children's Hospital Board, in front of major donors, you questioned Catherine's ability to handle her royal duties." "I simply expressed concern for her well-being," Camilla replied, but her voice lacked conviction. "She did look tired." "She looked tired because she'd been working 16-hour days for 3 weeks preparing for that event. She raised over £2 million for sick children, and instead of congratulating her, you humiliated her in public." The accusation hung in the air between them. Camilla rose from her chair, moving to the window that overlooked the palace gardens. The same gardens where Catherine had once played with William's children, where she had found peace during the difficult early days of her marriage. "You don't understand the pressures I face," Camilla said, still looking out the window. "Every day, I'm compared to Diana. Every gesture, every word, every appearance is measured against a woman who was beloved by the entire world. Do you have any idea what that's like?" William's expression didn't soften. "So you take it out on my wife? You make Catherine pay for insecurities that have nothing to do with her?" "It's not that simple." Camilla turned back to face him, and for the first time, William saw vulnerability in her eyes. "Catherine is everything I'm not. Young, beautiful, naturally charismatic. The public adores her. The press treats her like a fairy tale princess." "Because she earned it," William shot back. "Through years of hard work, dedication, and genuine care for the causes she supports. She didn't inherit that respect, she built it." "And what am I supposed to do with that?" Camilla's voice rose slightly, the first crack in her composed facade. "Smile and pretend it doesn't sting when I see how effortlessly she connects with people? When I watch her receive the kind of adoration I'll never have?" William stared at his stepmother, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time. The queen consort, draped in all the formal dignity her position required, but underneath still the woman who had been vilified by the press for years, who had fought for acceptance and respect that seemed to come naturally to others. But his sympathy was limited. Understanding her pain didn't excuse her actions. "I'm sorry you feel that way," he said, and he meant it. "But your feelings don't give you the right to damage Catherine's reputation or undermine her work." "I never intended—" "Intention doesn't matter," William cut her off. "Impact does. And the impact of your words at that gala was to make Catherine look weak and incompetent in front of people whose respect she needs to do her job effectively." Camilla returned to her desk but remained standing. What do you want me to do? Apologize? Issue some sort of public statement? I want you to stop. William's words were simple but carried the weight of absolute authority. No more subtle comments. No more questioning her abilities. No more undermining remarks disguised as concern. And if I refuse? There was defiance in Camilla's voice, but also curiosity. She was testing the boundaries of this confrontation, seeing how far her stepson was willing to push. William's answer was immediate and uncompromising. Then you'll find out exactly how much influence the future King of England has over your public schedule, your charitable patronages, and your position within this family. The threat was clear and serious. While Charles was currently king, William's position as heir gave him significant power, especially regarding the future of the monarchy. Camilla's role as queen consort was secure during Charles's lifetime, but her legacy and influence beyond that depended largely on maintaining good relationships with the next generation of royals. You would do that to me? Camilla asked, her voice barely above a whisper. After everything I've done for this family? I would do that to protect my wife, William replied without hesitation. Catherine is the future Queen of England. She's the mother of the next heir to the throne. Her success is essential to the future of the monarchy itself. I will not allow anyone, regardless of their current title, to jeopardize that. The conversation had reached a turning point. Both participants understood that they were no longer just stepmother and stepson having a family disagreement. This was about power, about the future direction of the royal family, and about who would ultimately have influence over the monarchy's evolution. Camilla sank into her chair, suddenly looking older than her years. You really think I'm that petty? That jealous? I think you're human, William said, his tone softening slightly. I think you face challenges and criticism that would break most people, but I also think that somewhere along the way, you forgot that Catherine isn't your enemy, she's your ally. How can she be my ally when her very existence highlights everything I'm not? William moved around the desk, closing some of the physical distance between them. Because she doesn't have to. Catherine has never said a negative word about you, publicly or privately. She's never tried to undermine your position or make you look bad. The comparison you're so afraid of, you're the only one making it. The silence that followed was different from the tense standoff that had begun their meeting. This was contemplative, heavy with the weight of years of misunderstood motivations and missed opportunities for genuine connection. The press will always compare us, Camilla said quietly. The public will always have opinions about who deserves their respect and who doesn't. That's true, William acknowledged, but that's their choice. What's your choice is whether you let that external noise turn you against someone who could be your greatest support system within the family. Camilla looked up at him, and William saw something shift in her expression. The defensiveness was still there, but it was mixed now with something that might have been regret. I never meant to hurt her, she said, and for the first time since the conversation began, William believed she was being completely honest. But you did hurt her, he replied gently. And more importantly, you hurt the work she's trying to do. Those donors at the gala didn't just hear you question Catherine's stamina. They heard the Queen Consort express doubt about the Princess of Wales's capabilities. That kind of internal family discord damages the monarchy's reputation and effectiveness. The full implications of her actions seemed to dawn on Camilla for the first time. She had been so focused on her personal feelings of inadequacy that she hadn't considered the broader consequences of her behavior. What happens now? She asked. William studied his stepmother's face, searching for signs of genuine remorse versus mere diplomatic maneuvering. Years of royal training had taught him to read people carefully, to distinguish between words spoken for effect and those that carried real meaning. What happens now depends entirely on you, he said finally. This can either be the moment where we clear the air and move forward as a united family, or it can be the beginning of a very public and very damaging conflict. Camilla winced at the word public. She had lived through enough royal scandals to understand how quickly private family tensions could become front-page news. The British press, and indeed the global media, thrived on stories of internal royal discord. "You're threatening to go public?" she asked. "I'm promising to protect my wife," William corrected. "If that protection requires making certain facts known to set the record straight, then so be it. But I'd much rather find a solution that preserves everyone's dignity." The offer hung in the air between them. Camilla could see the lifeline William was extending, even as she recognized the steel underneath his diplomatic words. This was her chance to salvage not just their relationship, but her own reputation and position within the family. "What would you need from me?" she asked quietly. William had clearly thought this through. First, a genuine apology to Catherine. Not a formal statement crafted by press officers, but a real conversation where you acknowledge the hurt you've caused. Camilla nodded slowly. And second, a public show of support. The next charity event Catherine attends, you'll be there. You'll praise her work, her dedication, her effectiveness as a member of the royal family. You'll make it clear that you have complete confidence in her abilities. The request was reasonable, but would require Camilla to swallow a considerable amount of pride. She would essentially be publicly contradicting the doubts she had expressed at the hospital gala. "And if I do these things?" she asked. "Then this conversation never happened. We move forward as a family, and I'll do everything I can to ensure that your contributions to the monarchy are recognized and respected." It was a fair deal, perhaps more generous than Camilla had any right to expect given the circumstances. William was offering her a path back into family unity that preserved her dignity while protecting Catherine's position. But there was still hesitation in Camilla's expression. "You have to understand, William, this isn't just about jealousy or petty rivalry. I've spent years building my own identity within this family. Sometimes it feels like if I don't assert myself, I'll simply disappear into the background." "And you think making Catherine look bad makes you look better?" William's tone was gentle but pointed. "Because from my perspective, it has the opposite effect. It makes you look insecure and vindictive." The words stung because they carried truth. Camilla had been so focused on not being overshadowed that she had failed to realize her behavior was actually diminishing her own standing. "I've been foolish," she admitted, the words coming out barely above a whisper. "You've been human," William replied, echoing his earlier words, but with more compassion this time. "The question is what you do next." Camilla rose from her chair and walked to a portrait of Queen Elizabeth that hung prominently on the wall. The late Queen's serene expression seemed to watch over the conversation, a reminder of the dignity and grace that should characterize royal behavior. "She never liked me, you know," Camilla said, indicating the portrait. "Your grandmother. She was always proper, always courteous, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes, the sense that I was never quite what she had hoped for the family." William was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. "She respected your commitment to my father. In the end, that mattered more to her than personal feelings." "And what matters to you?" "The future of the monarchy," William answered without hesitation. "My children will inherit this institution. I need to know that it will be strong, unified, and respected when they take their place in it. Family discord weakens everything we're trying to build." Camilla turned back to face him. "And Catherine is part of that future." "Catherine is essential to that future," William corrected. "She connects with people in a way that transcends traditional royal formality. She makes the monarchy relevant to younger generations. Her success is literally vital to the institution's survival." The political reality of the statement was stark but true. In an age of declining deference to traditional institutions, the royal family needed members who could inspire genuine affection and respect from the public. Catherine had proven herself capable of that in ways that few others could match. "I understand," Camilla said, and William could see that she genuinely did. "I've been fighting the wrong battle." "There doesn't have to be a battle at all," William pointed out. "You and Catherine could be powerful allies. Your experience and her natural charisma could complement each other beautifully." For the first time since the conversation began, Camilla smiled slightly. "You really think that's possible?" "I think it's necessary," William replied, "and I think it would benefit everyone involved." Camilla returned to her desk and sat down, this time appearing more relaxed than defensive. "The apology you mentioned, when should it happen?" "Soon," William said. "Catherine has been struggling with this for weeks. The sooner you can clear the air, the better for everyone." "And the public event?" "The Royal Opera House Gala next month. Catherine is the patron, and it's a high-profile evening with significant media coverage. Your presence and support would send a clear message." Camilla nodded, making mental notes. "I'll speak to my private secretary about adjusting my schedule." "Thank you," William said, and his relief was evident. "This is the right thing to do." "I hope so." Camilla paused, then added, "William, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think Catherine would ever be willing to truly forgive me? Not just accept an apology for appearance's sake, but actually forgive?" William considered the question carefully. "Catherine is one of the most forgiving people I know. She understands that we're all human, that we all make mistakes. But forgiveness will depend on whether she believes your apology is genuine and whether your future behavior supports your words." "Fair enough," Camilla said. "I suppose I'll have to prove myself." "We all do, every day," William replied. "That's what public service means." As their conversation wound down, both participants seemed to recognize that something fundamental had shifted. The confrontation that had begun with anger and accusations was ending with the possibility of genuine reconciliation. "There's one more thing," William said as he prepared to leave. "My father. Does he know about any of this?" Camilla shook her head. "I've been careful to keep my concerns private. Charles adores Catherine. He would be devastated to know that I've been causing problems." "Then let's make sure he never has to know," William suggested. "If we handle this properly, it can stay between us." The offer was another kindness, another way of preserving dignity while solving the underlying problem. Camilla nodded gratefully. "William?" she called as he reached the door. "Thank you for being direct instead of letting this fester, for offering a way forward instead of just punishment." "Family should protect each other," William replied. "All of us." As William left Camilla's office, the tension that had driven him through the palace corridors that morning had dissipated. He had accomplished what he set out to do without destroying relationships or creating permanent rifts within the family. The real test would come in the days and weeks ahead as Camilla followed through on her commitments and Catherine began to heal from the wounds that had been inflicted. But for the first time in months, William felt hope that his family could move forward united rather than divided. In her office, Camilla sat alone with her thoughts, already composing the words she would use when she spoke to Catherine. The apology would not be easy, but it was necessary. And perhaps, if she approached it with genuine humility and commitment to change, it might even be the beginning of the alliance William had envisioned. The palace, which had echoed with William's rage that morning, now settled into its usual quiet dignity. The crisis had passed, not through explosion, but through honest conversation and mutual understanding. It was, perhaps, exactly the kind of resolution that the monarchy needed as it faced an uncertain future. one built on communication rather than conflict, unity rather than division. Outside, the London afternoon was giving way to evening, and the lights of the palace began to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Inside, the work of repairing relationships and building bridges was just beginning.